is a lot like a hike. There's a lot of twists and turns, steep climbs, and breathtaking views. You can find that each peak leads to another and another. Along the way, there's rigorous paths that lead to challenges and new obstacles. In 2012, Great Barrington was named the best small town in America. Now, growing up in the Berkshires, much of our lives revolved around the outdoors. As kids, we spent time in the fall raking leaves and carving pumpkins, and the winter was spent sledding and building snowmen. In the spring, we planted seeds and raised gardens, and the summers were spent venturing to local trails and watering holes. Nearly 2 years after 2012, I would enter the workforce and start my first job as a busser at the local restaurant, Allium Restaurant and Bar. Fast forward 10 years, and I would launch a mobile dining business by the name of After Hours. For those of you who aren't familiar, After Hours operates as a restaurant without a home. Some of you may be asking, what does that even mean? During the hours in which businesses are closed, After Hours hosts our very own creative dining experiences within their spaces. As we're striving to change the way we think about dining, we work with as many local businesses and partners as we can to create mutually beneficial financial and marketing streams. If one of us wins, we both win. In the past year, we've hosted more than 150 events and partnered with more than 100 different businesses. After Hours has been featured in publications including Rural Intelligence, Edible Berkshires, The Mountains Magazine, The Bear's Den, New York Times, and was recently named into Main Street Magazine's 30 Under 30 list. But is this really the view from the top of the mountain? Let me back up a little bit. Though much of my teenage years were spent working in countless restaurants in nearly every position, much of my youth was spent pursuing a dream to play professional soccer. As I aged, injuries plagued me. Everything from shin splints and stress fractures to countless concussions, I couldn't seem to catch a break. By the time I was 20 years old, I decided to hang up my cleats and dreams of playing soccer professionally forever. At the time, I was attending a small school in Pennsylvania by the name of Lycoming College. I remember sitting in an outpatient care center as I'd heard the recent news of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. It wasn't long until colleges had shuttered and we had all been sent home. I spent much of that next year at home. The transition from soccer to restaurants was rather seamless. I found that after the quickly onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, I wanted to learn and understand everything it took to make it in the restaurant industry. In the fall of 2021, I transferred to Babson College out near Boston to pursue business and entrepreneurship. As my first academic experience without being a student athlete, the lack of athletic scholarships became very apparent. It wouldn't be 3 weeks into my first semester that I took my first job working in a restaurant in the city. I spent my days studying in the classroom at Babson and nights working in some of the most creative and forward-thinking restaurants in the area. I spent my days studying supply chain logistics and brand creation, and nights living the real-world example of these lessons. Supply chain logistics became better understood as it related to the way that people interacted within the restaurant and how we worked together. Brand creation became better understood as it related to our plating techniques and every step that we took in putting our food on the table. As I entered my final semester at Babson, I enrolled in one of the most challenging and rigorous courses offered at the school, taught by Professor Len Green. Once the founder of companies such as Blue Buffalo and Sobe Beverages, now spends much of his time teaching and advising Babson students through this rigorous and challenging course entitled the Ultimate Entrepreneurial Program. Through my final semester, I began searching for next steps in life. And as I looked, my desire to come home grew. I began searching for what next steps would look like and wanted to open a restaurant of my own. I started working through concepts, menu planning, designing, and determining what it would really take to open a restaurant here. After working through 2 concepts, I determined that it wasn't financially sustainable, and it was something that I needed to take a step back from. As I took that step back, I started to question, if this doesn't work, what does? It was here that the idea for After Hours was born. Taking in the knowledge and lessons that I had learned from Len Green, I recalled a story that he told us on our very first day of class. As he was training to run a marathon, something that isn't typically done when you're in your 60s or 70s, he explained to us all his worries, doubts, and fears in getting going. But recalled a moment of clarity and to just start running. So as I walked out of my final class at Babson, I received an email that the LLC for After Hours was approved, and I decided to take his advice and just start running. Over the past year, I've lost 2 business partners. I've had to relocate operations in less than 48 hours. I've had more 100-plus hour work weeks and 2 a.m. dinners than I can remember. I've been laughed at, doubted, and experienced the dynamic of ageism firsthand. All of this as 7 student loans have kicked in, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. All of this has led me here. All of the setbacks, the challenges, and obstacles have proven development both personally and professionally and have brought me here. Coming into today, it's hard to overlook the developmental period that we are all in. Excited for the future and looking forward to what tomorrow brings. As we step away from today, my message to you all is to never take no for an answer, is to never accept what you think to be the status quo, and to never stop climbing. My name is Kevin Kelly, and thank you for coming to my TED Talk.